Good afternoon, dear students. Today we'll continue the discussion of regulation of blood pressure. In the previous lecture, we have learned regarding baroreceptor mechanism. Just have to recap. Whenever there is increase in blood pressure, arteries are stretched. That is mainly the carotid sinus and aortic arch. Stretch receptors are there. They are stretched. So there is increased firing from baroreceptors. This will lead to stimulation of cardioinhibitory centers in the medulla, increased vagal tone and reduced heart rate, leading to decreased blood pressure. Simultaneously, vasomotor center is inhibited, reduced sympathetic tone, reduced vasomotor tone and vasodilatation, leading to decrease in blood pressure. So in this how elevation of blood pressure will lead to a reduction. So it is again one of the very good example of negative feedback mechanism. Now the baroreceptors are working at a particular blood pressure range, usually around 80 to 160 millimeters of mercury. That is the range as per given by different books. So let's assume it is up to 80 millimeters of mercury. Now when blood pressure reduces below this, some other mechanism will come into action. Now, apart from carotid sinus, there are some receptors located in the aortic bodies as well as in the carotid bodies. So, these two again receptors are located. Now, these are sensitive to chemistry of blood. That's why these are called as chemoreceptors, because their sensation is basically chemistry of blood, mainly O2, CO2 and H ions. Baro means for pressure, so they were sensitive to change in the pressure. Now, if we take a histology of these chemoreceptors, these consist of glomerulus cells. Two types are there, type 1 and type 2 glomerulus cells are there. These cells consist of O2 sensitive potassium channels, means they are very sensitive to change in oxygen level, and there is normally efflux of potassium from inside to outside. Now, whenever there is a decrease in oxygen level, obviously this will be inactivated. So reduced oxygen level or hypoxia leads to deactivation of the channel. So outflow of potassium will stop. So now what will, because of this, more positive ions remains inside. That is called as depolarization. So polarity changes. Inside was negative, constantly there was outflux of potassium, but now when potassium outflux is reduced, so more amount of potassium inside, leading to depolarization. So that is stimulation of this glomerulus cells. Impulse generated, this will be carried along the nerves to vasomotor center. Now we'll see again the innervation of this. So these aortic bodies are again carried by vagus nerve, that is afferent, and carotid bodies is again carried by glossopharyngeal nerve. So they are going to medulla at the vasomotor center. Now they lead to stimulation of vasomotor center. Now exact internal mechanism here is not well studied. Only thing is that whenever there is a stimulation of glomerulus cells, impulse will travel along this vagus nerve and glossopharyngeal nerve, and there is stimulation of vasomotor center. But these are stimulated at a pressure lower than the baroreceptors. Same innervation is there, vasomotor center. From here vagus and sympathetica both are going. So this vasomotor center is stimulated. They will lead to stimulation of heart as well as the vasoconstriction, and blood pressure is brought back to the normal. Now this mechanism, chemosensitive cells, sensitive to lack of O2 mainly, so located in carotid bodies and aortic bodies. Blood pressure falls below a critical level. So usually they are activated below the baroreceptor activation. So diminished blood flow, so normally they are activated below 80 up to around 50 to 60 millimeters of mercury. So these are the body's defense mechanism. When blood pressure is falling, first to come will be to rescue within seconds is baroreflex mechanism. After that this may get activated, that is chemoreflex mechanism. So they excite the vasomotor center. This elevates the blood pressure back to the normal. Now sometimes again this might not work, and there may be major blood loss. Blood flow, there is blood loss continues. In that condition, blood pressure will further fall as the blood is lost, especially in case of accidents. When a major accident is there, in that a major artery like a sciatic major artery of the lower limb or upper limb gets injured, so blood flow may continue. So initially may baroreflex work, after that chemoreflex may work, but even if blood flow continues to lose, in that condition one more reflex come into rescue. Whenever there is a blood loss excess, there will be cerebral ischemia because blood flow to the brain will be decreased. So in that condition now, vasoconstrictor and cardioexcitor neurons in the vasomotor centers are strongly stimulated. They respond to the ischemia basically. So they are strongly stimulated. So this is called as CNS ischemic response. So usually they get activated at a blood pressure below 60 millimeters of mercury and strongest stimulation at around 50 to 20 millimeters of mercury. So this is basically called as a last rescue mechanism of the body to bring blood pressure back to the normal. So it is called as a last ditch stand pressure control mechanism. So you have to understand these are all sequelae. First baroreflex mechanism is come into action. After that chemoreflex comes. When blood process continues and blood pressure comes down, so this will be the last mechanism to come into activation. But these all are functioning within seconds and minutes only. And after that, if body's defense external support is given by our medical support, like IV fluids are given and blood supply, blood transfusion is given, that time then rescue mechanism may work. But if this continues to lose, the patient may lose their life because of severe hypotension. So innervation is same. In this condition there is a strong stimulation of vasomotor center, so leading to strong vasoconstriction. So these are the three mechanisms which are working within fractions of a second and trying to rescue the blood pressure back to the normal. But if the blood loss continues but simultaneously we are also supplying some fluid, that time intermittently other mechanisms also get activated after some minutes. That is from the kidney. Whenever there is a decreased blood pressure, the kidney comes to rescue. There is a release of substance called as a renin. So this is the enzyme released by the kidney at juxtaglomerular cell. It will act on one substrate, that is angiotensinogen, which is normally formed in the liver. Now this is basically inactive form. This angiotensinogen is being converted to angiotensin 1 by this renin enzyme. So this is the role of the kidney in blood pressure regulation. So whenever there is a decrease in blood pressure, renin is released from the kidney, which acts on angiotensinogen, which is normally present in the blood, which is formed by the liver. It is converted to angiotensin 1, but angiotensin 1 is not an active form. It is now converted to angiotensin 2, which is the active form. It is in the lungs by this enzyme called as angiotensin converting enzyme. So this takes place in the lung blood vessels. Now this angiotensin 2 has got a very important role. It acts on the heart cardiovascular system. Now it is one of the very important strong vasoconstrictor. This will lead to vasoconstriction and increase in blood pressure. Simultaneously, it initiates a long-term mechanism by acting on adrenal cortex and leading to release of aldosterone. So it is acting in both ways. Release of aldosterone takes place. Now here these are very important steps, as it is a vasoconstrictor. So this can be main culprit in the generation of hypertension also. So we have got many of the medicines which are acting against this also. So commonly used antihypertensives are usually sympathetic blockers. Apart from that, there is one antihypertensive called as angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. We are inhibiting the formation of angiotensin 2. So it is one of the very important step in the control of blood pressure. By reducing the angiotensin 2 level in the blood, we are also lowering blood pressure. So that medicine is called as angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. So it is one of the very common antihypertensive used in the practice. Now here we can have a great look on what are the possible causes of blood pressure problems. There can be an excess release of renin from the kidneys, maybe because of a tumor, maybe because of anything. So like this you have to think, if there is a patient of hypertension, what are the possible causes in these steps? So this enzyme may be overactive, which is converting more. Okay, so like this, so any things can be there, so we have to think in this way. Or other way, if you want to reduce blood pressure, we have to look in this angle also. There can be excess of angiotensin 2, there can be excess production of angiotensinogen, there can be excess production of this. So these are the different areas we can work and try to reduce the blood pressure of a patient. Now this renin, which is released from the juxtaglomerular cells of kidney, it is acting on angiotensinogen from the liver, angiotensin 1, angiotensin 2 by this angiotensin converting enzyme. Now this vasoconstriction and increased blood pressure. This is one mechanism. So angiotensinogen is also one of the enzyme which is deactivating it. So this is called as renin-angiotensin mechanism of blood pressure control. So it is one of the control mechanism. Whenever there is a decreased blood pressure, this will lead to increased blood pressure. Apart from this, angiotensin 2, it causes renal retention of salt and water through aldosterone. So now this mechanism here is called as an intermediate control mechanism of blood pressure, and this is called as a long-term control mechanism of blood pressure. By both these mechanisms, there is an increase in blood pressure, but by vasoconstriction, it is again intermediate. Immediate blood pressure will bring back to the normal, but through aldosterone it will take some time. It is causing the retention of sodium and water and leading to rising blood pressure. So these are the key two mechanisms which are helping bring the blood pressure back to the normal. Now apart from this, whenever the pressure in the blood vessel increases, if you just recall, I have mentioned you, the smooth muscles have got a property of, whenever they are stretched, they are tense, but after some time tension goes off. So the blood vessel, they become stretched and keep on stretching. The pressure in the vessel falls towards the normal. This is called as stress relaxation. This is the property of smooth muscle. Now because of this also, there is a decrease in blood pressure. So it is again an intermediate term pressure buffer system called as stress relaxation mechanism. This is also a mechanism which leads to a decrease in blood pressure. Now one more mechanism is there which is again working intermittently. So this is basically, here you can see these are the blood capillaries and this is the interstitial space. Normally there is a flow across its two by hydrostatic pressure in the blood vessels and the oncotic pressure in the blood vessel as well as in the hydrostatic pressure in the interstitial fluid. Now what happens? This is called as capillary fluid shift mechanism. So what is this mechanism? Capillary pressure falls too low whenever there is a decrease in blood pressure. As we know that pressure in the capillary is hardly around 10 to 15 millimeters of mercury, but when blood pressure is falling in the major arteries, here it might come down again to 5, 6, 7 also. In that condition, fluid is absorbed from the tissues back into the blood vessel. Means from the interstitial space, fluid is going back in the blood vessels, building up of blood volume and increasing the pressure in the circulation. So by reabsorbing the fluid back from interstitial space back into the blood vessel, there is increase in the pressure. Conversely, when capillary pressure rises, fluid is lost out in the tissues. So this is called as a capillary fluid shift mechanism. So this will be working in both direction and trying to bring the blood pressure back to the normality. So now these control mechanisms are renin-angiotensin mechanism, stress relaxation and capillary fluid shift mechanism. These are acting with the minutes to the days. Now in this diagram we will have a clear idea. See, this is the baroreflex mechanism, you can see acting immediately. After this, chemoreflex mechanism, and third is CNS ischemic response. So these are coming in seconds. Within seconds they are coming into action and trying to bring the blood pressure back to the normal. But you can see they are coming down. If the blood pressure continues, they will come down and they will not work more. Then stress relaxation, you can see it is going long. Renin-angiotensin mechanism, a green, and this is our capillary fluid shift mechanism. Okay, this is working, and in minutes And now this aldosterone, it is starting after the days, you can see, hours, and continues for days. Okay. So like this, these are the different control mechanisms. You can, some are activated within seconds, some in minutes, some in hours, and some in days. Now ultimately it depends on our medical support also. If there is severe blood loss and immediately but the patient is sought for medical attention and body fluids are replaced and blood transfusion is given, this may suffice and patient will survive back to the normality immediately. But if you are giving some more time, so from here you can have the importance of the time for management within seconds, minutes to hours to the days. As you advance more will be the chance of the damage to the brain, because these are coming back to the normal in hours. You can see here they are coming back to the normal in hours. If within few minutes to hours, if medical attention is not sought, the patient may suffer severe brain hypoxia, and that is a great insult to his brain, and the patient can go in brain death also, brain damage. So now short-term control mechanisms: baroreceptors, chemoreceptors, and CNS ischemic responses. Intermediate and long-term control mechanism: this is renin-angiotensin mechanism, stress relaxation mechanism, and capillary fluid shift mechanism. Renin-angiotensin mechanism continues with the aldosterone also. So these are the different mechanisms which are maintaining the blood pressure back to the normal. So here we are completing the regulation of blood pressure mechanism. We'll have a discussion during our lecture session. Thank you.